Cars you should buy that have engines like this. Because nobody wants to stay up sleepless nights reading the forums and learning all of the problems that vehicle has. Nobody wants to spend all of their hard-earned dollars pumping in for parts and servicing just to keep that vehicle on the road. And nobody wants to be on their dealership Christmas card mailing list. I'm going to share a list of 5 amazing vehicles you should buy because of their engines that will keep these vehicles running literally forever. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
The first car on our list has one of the most robust engines you'll find anywhere. What we're talking about here is the 9th generation Honda Civic. Runs from 2011 to about 2017, but shares an engine that's also common with many other models like the Honda CR-V, the Acura ILX, the Honda Insight, as well as the Honda Jade. Most people who buy these know that they're worth keeping for life because they don't cost much money to have around. But these basic Civics, while they're a little bit frugal, while they're a little thin and lightweight, they in fact create a motoring experience that will get you to work and back flawlessly for many hundreds of thousands of miles. It's the R Series Honda engine, which you're finding in this generation of car from 2011 to 2017. But that engine actually came out back in 2006 and as a 1.6 liter, went up to 1.8 like you'll find in here, as well as you can get a 2-liter 4-cylinder. And the beauty is they're naturally aspirated. The key word, no turbos, and as well they're port fuel injection, so there's no direct injection here to bung up and create all kinds of carbonization. There's a whole host of trick features in this vehicle, like variable intake runners for maximum fuel economy and performance that keeps you performance throughout the rev range, timing chains instead of timing belts, because except for the Germans who create, in some cases, these single row timing chains that break inadvertently, these timing chains are built to last for life. Timing belts are a maintenance item, and this one has a chain. That's a win. You also have a lot of these pistons now. Previous generation did not have oil cooling jets. This one does. The non-SI versions get the piston fueling jets here, which is going to save your engine regardless of how long and how hard you drive this vehicle. The beauty is it's all aluminum from top to bottom, aluminum heads, aluminum engine block, and another major reason why this 140 some odd horsepower engine keeps people on the road longer. You don't have to worry about expensive service aspects. Your dealerships know how to change parts, their service rates are lower, and of course, even if you choose to do it yourself, parts are easy to get at. Air filter, easy to get at. Battery, easy to swap. Even this, you can clean this out, as well as your O2 sensors are easy to access. How about parts replacements like that? Well, you don't have to do many of them because they're very reliable, but if you did, even those parts are very easy to access. Everything's very accessible. You can even see down there below at the transaxle, which coincidentally is a torque converter automatic transmission, and that's rare these days as most car brands are going with the CVT transmission. So while many people are caught up in the glitz and glamour of new technology, what we can't forget are there's still some quality engines out there that were built a few short years ago that still create high levels of reliability and performance. The Honda Civic and the beautiful R Series engine is definitely one you're going to want to buy. Another vehicle that carries some of the best engines you could possibly imagine. Now granted, these Toyotas here were built largely in Mexico as well as Texas. There is a lot to love about these, and a lot of people are missing these already because the latest generation has that turbo 2.4 and there's been problems with the gearbox. But these 2nd generation Toyota Tacoma, like we're seeing right here, are some of those with the best engines that you could possibly dream up in the Toyota world. Yes, it gives all the versatility. You get a little bed, you get all kinds of space, a slider in some of these models, 4-wheel drive, and there's been a variety from SR5s to TRD Pros, which came out in 21. They allowed to give you dust-free boots and all kinds of upgraded suspension parts, bigger wheels. But ultimately, the automatic and manual transmissions were a bit of a defining point. The automatic transmissions were a little sluggish, weren't necessarily the best to drive. They were reliable, they just weren't that great until you had a tune. The manual gearbox was more in line with the character of the vehicle. Now look inside, and frugality was the name of the game with these Toyotas, but people loved them for that. They were good for off-roading, everyday use, rugged, durable, and reliable. And there was a couple of engines available. A 2.7 liter straight 4, which was paired up with a 5-speed manual, wasn't necessarily the preferred drivetrain, but the one that is the most durable engine that will be sorely missed is the 3.5 liter V6, the 2GR FKS V6, and that would come coupled together with both the 6-speed auto or the 6-speed manual transmission. A couple of defining characters other than its durability and the fact that 3.5 has been around in many variations through a lot of the Toyota lineups. These vehicles actually have what they call the Atkinson cycle, or the VVT-IW, which basically toggles between your port and direct fuel injection. And while a lot of brands struggle with carbon in the intake and the intake valves, Toyota has found a way by incorporating port fuel injection. So depending on the driving conditions, this Atkinson design will allow it to toggle back and forth, and ultimately the intake valves will wash out because of the port system, but the direct gives a better metering and fuel economy. Ultimately, it's a great design from an engineering standpoint and from a reliability perspective. This V6, 3.5 liters, in this Toyota Tacoma, second generation, is definitely one you have to look at as one of the best engines Toyota's ever made. Right here we have ourselves a 2003 Volkswagen Golf. Now, this one clearly has seen its better days. We've got yellowing of headlights, but largely that's because the PPF on there. You can see the paint protection film peeling as well right there. But overall, this car's been rode hard, put away wet. Of course, you've got a little rust along the bottom, little hard wearing handles, and a little hatchback. But the Golf has always been one of those very, very popular little models by people that just love the practical sense, something short, stout, performance oriented. You can often get the manual or standard transmissions, and they're a lot of fun to drive. We even own ourselves a Volkswagen Cabrio ourselves in 1998. The car and the engine in question, that's one of the best that you'll ever find anywhere, if you can find them, belongs to a 1992 to 1999 Volkswagen Golf Mark III GTI. You can also find some of those engines as well in some of the Passats, but back in that generation, just before this gen here came out, they were ruthless. What it featured was an inline 4-cylinder engine with an aluminum head, and of course it was naturally aspirated, produced a high revving output of about 148 horsepower, and a significant amount of torque meant that it was very rev happy, and people were enticed to do so because the power delivery of that engine was one which sort of revved and revved and revved, and it just felt like it wanted to keep revving to the moon. It was very peppy, very quick, very fun, and again, when coupled up with that manual gearbox, was almost unbeatable in the day. As a matter of fact, it's such a popular engine, not just for its reliability, because it's bulletproof other than the odd typical Volkswagen sensor problems. Now a lot of people are backdating and taking engines like that ABF engine is the engine we're talking about, which is 2 liters, and dropping them in many other project cars, simply because of the fun factor. It's an easy engine that's tunable, it's rev happy, it's got strong internals, and it's built to last a long time. Easy car to maintain, easy car to own and operate, and a serious ball of fun and excitement. The Volkswagen ABF, definitely one that's going to last a long time. The next legendary engine belongs to, if you can believe it, BMW. Here we have a couple of generations, the E30, and then we have the E46. But it's the model that should fit right in between, which is the E36. From this car, it was a revolution to the next engine, and then of course it started to go downhill after that. Now we also know that inline 6-cylinder engines and BMWs are like hot dogs in baseball. So basically what we're dealing with is an E30 BMW here, massive changes when they introduced the E36, which they came out with their 2 to 2.5 liter inline 6-cylinder engines, but it all evolved and started with the E34 generation of 5 Series BMWs is where it was first introduced. 1990 to 1996 is the run of the M50 engine, which is that inline 6-cylinder engine, which, as already mentioned, ranges anywhere from 2 liters from about 150 horsepower up to almost 200 horsepower in the 2.5 liter version. There's also an M version, and the beauty is these vehicles had featured an iron block with an aluminum head, and for the first time ever, they had variable valve timing, their Vanos system, on the intake cam only. BMWs have traditionally always had all kinds of followers, and BMW enthusiasts often refer to a couple of the legendary engines. One, of course, is the S55, is one of the hottest inline 6-cylinder turbo engines from the M3, M4s, but the other one is the M50 engine, not in this, but in the later generation of the E36, which gives you, of course, that great engine. Naturally, the iron block was very robust and could tolerate heating issues, and of course, the aluminum heads just allowed for better performance and heat distribution. And now, of course, they found the best of both worlds with the iron and the aluminum stacked onto a naturally aspirated inline 6-cylinder engine. Means, other than a few coolant leak issues, other than the odd thermostat or water pump problem, those engines were absolutely bulletproof, one for the longevity history books. BMW M50. One of the next longest lasting engines you'll find just about anywhere doesn't necessarily belong to this vehicle. This is the latest and greatest Lexus GX 550. This does include the new twin turbo 3.4 liter V6. Well, it's peppy, it's spunky, it makes better fuel economy than the outgoing model. It's in fact some of the outgoing engines that are much better and more reliable than the latest and greatest. Now, this has all the latest tech. It looks spry, it has a third row seating, and it's a beautiful vehicle. It has all the nice detailing, light bar across the back. It's a gorgeous vehicle. What we're talking about are the Land Cruiser by Toyota. We're also talking about the Lexus LX 470, the LX series, the GX series, any of those that carry the V8 engine that's 90-degree displacement. They varied. 4.6, 4.7, 5.7, a lot of great engines over the years. These engines have been around from 1989 to 2013 and varied in power from 256 horsepower all the way up to 500 horsepower in the latest trims and the top trim levels. To add to the amount of robustness that you find in a lot of these, most of those V8 engines are plopped into a heavy-duty platform. Like a lot of these Lexus GX, LX, and even the Toyota Tundra are truck platforms. That's right, full-on body truck platforms, not a unibody vehicle like these, rather a full-on truck vehicle. Of course, they give you all of the great detailing. Beautiful interior on some of these vehicles too, with the wood grain. Lots of nice stepping boards on these vehicles. Alloy wheels way back in the day. Look, we have headlight washers on these as well. Chrome detailing on the front hood. And it's a beautiful rig. This is pretty much, you can tell, is heavily based on the original generation Toyota Tundra. But those engines, the 1, the 2, and the 3 UZFE. So while a few of them had a few issues with the odd coolant leak, they're generally speaking, they're so reliable, it's almost painful how reliable. Early generations had a few of the problems in the engine, but generally as time went on, they just got better and better and better. And virtually every V8 engine of the 1, 2, 3 UZ variations of these vehicles in the Toyota and Lexus lineup are nothing short of spectacular, and some of the most reliable vehicles you will find just about anywhere at any time. Makes you wonder why they ditched the V8s and went with some of these turbo V6s now, doesn't it? A lot of it could be for various reasons. Some might be CAFE standards, some might be CO2 emissions, and of course some of it could just in fact be the fact that if you have a vehicle that lasts simply way too long, you're not trading it in anytime soon. If you can get 3 or 4 or 500,000 miles out of one of those, why would you ever trade it up? And that's part of the problem. And with all of that said, be sure to check out that video, a very popular one, all of the best vehicles you're gonna find for 2025 in case you just want something new. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you real soon, everybody. Bye-bye.